Hey guys, Mamie Carson here with OneJoyousSkip.com, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be reviewing and demonstrating two different types of watercolor pencils, and I'm going to be using this stamp set from MFT, or My Favorite Things rather, and it's called Beary Special Birthday. I'm going to be using some watercolor paper. I'm going to use the Artistico Extra White hot pressed paper, 140 pound, and I love this paper. I cannot recommend it enough. I am just loving it. It's smooth on both sides. It takes water really well, and I love it. And I'm also using the Faber-Castell Goldfaber Aqua and my Derwent Inktense pencils. So I'll have all this stuff listed down below so that you can refer to it and pick one up if you want to. I just recently got the Faber-Castell watercolor pencils. I've had the Derwent Inktense pencils for a while. And so, but I have worked with them enough to know, what to expect from both of them pretty well. But I just want to mention that the Derwent Inktense pencils are not necessarily watercolor pencils. They are an ink type of pigment. I'm not really sure all of the formulation of them, but they're really, really cool, and I have loved them for a long time. So I'm just going to be kind of comparing the two on the same type of paper. I'm using my water brush pen here. It's just a lot easier for me. And if you see my hand kind of go off screen, it's because I'm wiping off some of the pigment to blend out colors. So that's always something that I do no matter what type of watercolor pencils I'm using. So that's a good tip, is to continue to wipe off your brush so that you can blend out your colors. I'm using a method that you scribble you scribble the pencil onto your paper first and then pick it up. I feel like you have a lot more control this way than just going pencil right onto paper, but you can also go pencil onto paper. I will show me doing that as well. But for the vast coloring of this project, I will be using just the pencil to paper and then picking up that pencil. And so it's just kind of like creating a little palette, a watercolor palette. So with this first demonstration here on the right, this is the Faber-Castell, the Goldfaber Aqua. And I just have the primaries of this, and I didn't really need anything more. And you can kind of mix the colors together on paper too if you want to. So it worked out really well. And some of the things that I have noticed with this watercolor pencil is it gives you a very soft finish. And you can add a lot of layers. The thing is, once you put that color down, it doesn't really like to move a whole lot. Even on this hot pressed paper, you'd have to try it on a bunch of different papers probably to figure out which ones work best or whatever. But with this paper in particular, and what I've noticed about these pencils in particular so far, is that they do not like to blend out after you let them dry, like even for a few seconds. So my tip here would be to, if you want to blend out an area, to go ahead and blend it out immediately. Don't leave it and come back and try to blend it out later. I'm not doing wet on wet here. I'm doing wet on dry. So that means that the image is dry and I'm coming in with a little bit of wet color and then blending that out with a little bit of clear water. And so that might make a little bit of difference. If your paper is already wet before you put the color on, it will blend better. That's just part of the way it works. But I really wanted a really controlled technique here so that I could go back in and add layers if I needed to, versus trying to pull that color up, because it doesn't seem like this color really likes to budge once you put it down and it dries for a few moments. I really like the soft effect of this color, and I'm going in here and adding layers and layers and layers. And after I did both images, I learned a lot more about the differences between the two. And so I'll go ahead and talk about that now. So this one on the right versus the one on the left, like I said, gives you a very soft look, and it doesn't blend out after it's dried a bit. So you do need to add several layers to get the desired effect and depth that you're looking for. So, but overall, the coloring came out really cute, and I really loved it. And this is the no-line watercoloring technique. It's not 100% no line, obviously. It is a light ink that has been stamped, and what the point is to make those lines kind of disappear into the background as you color so that it looks like there are no lines. And so here I'm just adding a little bit darker shading, just going in and picking up some of that color and then putting it down on the paper over and over again until I have the desired effect. And so now to show you guys the other aspect of using these watercolor pencils is going in pencil to paper, and it doesn't really matter which way your lines are going. They don't have to be filled in perfectly, because once you go in with that water brush, those lines will disappear, especially on this paper. This paper is fantastic for watercoloring. I just love it, and it's hard for me to go back to any other paper now after I've been using this hot pressed paper. It's just fantastic, and I can't recommend it enough. I will link all this stuff down below so that you can give it a try, and always let me know what you think about it. So like I showed you, going pencil right onto paper, I just was able to blend that out. You don't get as much control, like I said, so I'm still able to come in and scribble some on the paper and then come in and grab it and add more depth and dimension that way as well. But I just wanted to show you guys that you can go in with the pencil right onto the paper. So another part of using these pencils is that you can just go in straight with the pencil and you don't need to blend it out at all. If you want to add even more depth in certain areas to get really dark pigment, you would just go in with the pencil itself to small areas, and you can do that and it works just fine. So I'm wrapping up here with just finishing the little present and the nose and those few little details. So I'm going to leave you with a little bit of music, and then we'll jump over to the other image. So here we are back to the other image now with the Derwent Inktense pencils, and I'm doing the same method, scribbling it down on the paper and then pulling that up and layering it on the image. So basically the same technique for both sides. Now what I noticed is the Inktense pencils are very intense. That's why they're called Inktense, I guess. The pigment is really strong. I mean, you can just pick up a little bit of that color and it goes a long way. And so this was kind of user error for me, because the one on the right, you really had to pick up a lot of pigment in order to get the layers you wanted. But then when I moved over to the left, I was still using the technique I was using on the right. And I kind of overdid it a little bit, using a little bit too much pigment when I should have started with softer layers of pigment and then built that up. So instead here I'm actually going in and trying to pull a lot of that color back up with my water brush. And so what I noticed while doing that is that the Derwent Inktense pencils give you a little more wiggle room. They give you a little more time to go in and blend out those colors and use your water and pull up some of that color. So it is a little bit more forgiving as far as blending the colors out and having more time for moving the colors around. So that is definitely a plus. And when you see the end images of both of them put together side by side, I do like the one on the right better, probably for a few reasons. Basically, the colors were better. The one on the left I thought was going to be a little bit more brown, but it turned out looking more like Winnie the Pooh. But also because of the softer look to the image on the right, and it looks a little bit more crisp than the one on the left. Now that, I think, is user error. Like I said, I added a little too much water on the left, trying to go in and pull out the colors whenever I had added a little bit too much color, you know, because I had gotten used to being over on the right and having to add layers upon layers. And then over here on the left, that color is so intense that I had to kind of, I started getting the hang of it before the very end. Hey, don't add so much color, and then you won't have to use your water brush to pick up that color so much, so that you can have a nice crisp line at the end. But, you know, I just wanted to let you guys know that if you're not in love with the way the one on the left is looking, as far as not being as crisp and the colors maybe being a little too strong, that's probably more than likely user error. So that being said, I'm doing the same techniques on both sides, so there's not really much I need to explain about that. But I will say that I do love both of these watercolor well, I keep calling Inktense. I've had somebody already before tell me, those are not watercolor pencils. They are not watercolor pencils. Inktense pencils are a different ink formulation, but in my opinion, they act just like a watercolor. So that's why I'm calling them watercolors. I know I'm going to have comments below saying, hey, those are not watercolor pencils. And yes, I do realize that, but since they do work like watercolor pencils, that's why I'm using them in this video and comparison. So all that being said, I do love both of them. I think in the end, it would be just a matter of user preference. If you're kind of new to using watercolors, I would kind of recommend the Derwent, because you can go in and pick up some of that color if you've put a little bit too much with water. It's a little more forgiving. And the one on the right, once you put that color down, it's really hard to pull that color back up. So, but that being said, I like both of them. I have no complaints either way. They're just two different types of mediums that you can use, really. So yeah, so that's really basically all I have to say about this. I hope that you got a little bit of further information from, if you're trying to decide whether you want to go with one or the other, or if you're wanting to try watercolor pencils in general. So yeah, I recommend both of them, and I will, like I said, have everything listed down below so that you can pick some up if you want to try this out yourself. And if you like this video, please hit like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out so much, especially now we have all these changes in YouTube. It really helps us out when you hit like and if you subscribe to our channel. And I will be posting another video very soon. So wait till the end of the video, and I'm going to make a little card with these two guys, or I'm going to make a little example. I haven't done it yet. I'm going to make a little example so that you can see these cuties on a project before I finish out the video. So thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.